I went into sales in 1999 and haven't turned back since then. I've sold a variety of different products, usually customer satisfaction, a little bit of software. I started out in the software and consulting area, some security solutions, physical security with Stanley Works. I work for a software company called SAS. So genetic testing to surgeons and oncologists in a variety of different things in between there. It was very inspirational to get into the genetic testing part because that was in cancer research. So I liked that a lot. And then eventually started working on my own and volunteering at SCORE. And that's how I kind of got here, is through SCORE. Through SCORE, I've worked for them for almost 5 years now. It is in the mentoring area as a subject matter expert in sales. I do sales training for them. I also do HR as well. So I interview incoming mentors. And then I'm a subject matter expert for mentors who need help specifically with their clients with sales. So with that, I will get started here. Throughout this presentation, you're going to be introduced to Larry. I'll show you a picture of Larry quick. He's my untrained counterpart. So I'll give you a little bit more information on him in a little bit. Larry's kind of a off the hip type of guy. So I'm going to see if I can advance the screen here one. And here's my introduction to Larry O'Donnell. Larry is me, untrained, off the ship, kind of awkward guy, maybe a little lame in the question he's asking and answering as he moves forward. So we'll manage Larry as we go along. He's going to make 3 stops here, and I'll cue him up before he gets started, and then we can comment on Larry. Before we get started with the whole presentation, I want to do a couple clarifications here, just because a lot of us come from small business. And when we say marketing and sales, sometimes we use those synonymously. But for me, I'm going to give some clarification here for the sake of this presentation. Marketing is what I would call a little bit more passive. So marketing is when you buy a billboard, maybe, or you follow up with, you send out some emails, or you buy some time on the radio or a television slot. So you hope to reach a lot of people, you don't know who you're reaching, and you're kind of pushing as much of your product as you can out there. In the sales area, that's more active. To me, that's the moment you start talking to that actual customer. So instead of general things about your product or about customers, you're going to learn something more specific about that person. So in the sales, that's the active part, and the marketing a little bit more passive. And I'll explain that more as I proceed. Business to business versus business to consumer sales. So B2B is a company, like when I work for Stanley Black & Decker, selling to Target, where business to consumers could be maybe myself selling directly to somebody who's buying a vehicle, a car. So I can be a salesman selling a car. I can work in a small shop, or I can sell online. So that's when you're the business and you're selling directly to consumer. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to show you a couple of tools. You can use my tools or you can Google them. I'll tell you the keywords to Google, and maybe you can find something more specific. I'm trying to make this really general to fit a lot of different companies. So it's my ideas and my tools, but you can Google them and find a variety of different tools that will help you under the same heading. And then lastly, it's up to you. You can change or you can not change how you approach your sales. If you don't change how you approach your sales, you're probably going to get the same sales results. So if you're okay with the same sales results, you don't have to change. If you do change, it's going to feel a little awkward at first, maybe the first 10 or 12 tries, maybe the first 20 tries. But I can assure you that it'll pay off after you get through the awkwardness. Your sales are going to be influenced in a positive way. So with that, I'm going to kind of deliver here what I promised I would from the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about sales myths, about having a great product, some crazy unplanned telephone calls, and then some odd, goofy confrontations. And I'll try to keep it light and interesting, as if I was talking to you all personally. And that's where Larry's going to help me out. So first, we're going to talk about sales myths. We all think we've got a great product, right, that we're going to sell. If we didn't, we wouldn't sell it. So the sales myth is, I have a great product, so everybody's going to buy it from me. And I'm going to talk about that great product. And as soon as they learn about it, they're going to buy it. So Larry, I'm going to cue Larry up. And my introduction to Larry is, he's shooting from the hip. He's kind of an old style sales guy. He hasn't done a lot of planning. And what he's going to try to do is talk to somebody that just walked into his car dealership, and they're going to buy a new car from Larry. So this is the first meeting. If you could imagine somebody sitting across from him, and he's going to talk about the new car. This is his first introduction meeting with the new customer.
Hi, I'm glad you came in today. I've got the perfect car for you. You're going to love it. It's a convertible. It's very fast, awesome tires, loud exhaust. It is a really cool car. Why not go get the keys? We'll have a test drive. We'll do a quick credit check. So leave your driver's license here and a credit card. We'll take a test drive. You're going to love it. It's absolutely awesome. Your friends are going to love it. Your parents are going to love it. It is a sweet car. Everybody's going to envy you.
So I'm going to take a pause here and ask, what does Larry do wrong? So we can enter our chat sessions right now and start talking about, what is Larry doing wrong throughout this conversation? He's done everything that he needs to do, or hasn't he? So Larry's telling you all about his product. All right, I hear Derek out there. Derek says, Larry's not learning about the customer. Exactly. Other comments about Larry? What other things is Larry doing besides not learning about the customer? That's spot on, Derek. All right. I've got a comment out there from Amanda saying he didn't ask any questions, so he can't understand the customer needs. Jill is saying he's selling the features. Spot on, Jill. Thank you. So I'm going to kind of turn to the next slide here. I would say Larry is carrying on with what I would call the plaid jacket legacy, right? The smooth salesperson that's going to tell you all about their product. Their product is awesome. It's going to change your life. They're going to tell you it's going to change your life. You're going to love it, but he hasn't asked you any questions yet to find out what you're going to love about it. So he's telling you all about this really fast, loud, stylish car, but he hasn't asked you anything about what type of car you came in there to buy. He's saying everyone's going to envy you. So he's making some maybe conclusions that are true about him. He may want everybody's envy, but maybe that's not what you're interested in. Clearly, Larry is selling the features of the vehicle. And we call this a couple of different things in sale. Isn't my baby beautiful, right? Because as parents, we all love our baby. As the creators of our own product or services, we see certain things about our products and services that we think are wonderful. And that's great. That makes great marketing. But when we go into sales, that's not really sales. Marketing is where we kind of generally hit people with the great things about our product. Salespeople call this throwing spaghetti against the wall. So we're throwing it against the wall, and the spaghetti is al dente. We hope some of that spaghetti sticks to the wall. So we're really kind of risking the things that we can talk to our customer about. We have a limited amount of time, and we're not doing the best that we can about finding out about our customer. So here's just a general sales cycle. And I hit on this because it has all the steps, but I want to establish the relationship between the customer, recognize the needs, and form a solution. If prospects drop out, that's okay. We have other prospects. I'm going to just let them move out because we don't have something that will meet their needs. We can't figure out their needs, or we can't form a solution. So we're going to let the sales cycle be the sales cycle, and we're going to try to recognize some customer needs. So what should we do to do that, to destroy the plaid jacket legacy? Let's think about the customer value prop. That's from their point of view, not from marketing's point of view, but let's figure out what the needs and solutions of that customer are by asking some open-ended questions. And the best way to find out about those needs is to apply the listening 80-20 rule. Let's make sure we listen 80%. So ask a good open-ended question and wait for the answer. We're going to find out what problems does it solve for the customer, the money it saves, how does it make their day simpler, and maybe if you're selling business to business, how do we get them a promotion? Yeah, I don't know if anybody's heard of the WIIFM, what's in it for me? This is the value prop from the customer's perspective. Larry skipped all that. He told them what he liked about the car. So what I would suggest that you do is try some planned open-ended questions. You can Google open-ended sales questions and find some great ones. I would suggest you start as broad as you can. When your customer comes over that threshold, don't ask them, can I help you? What brings you in today, right? They might say, hey, my lease is coming to an end. So when I ask, what brings you in today, I get real insight. I might say, what types of vehicles have you been considering? Well, my wife asked me to test drive 3 different vehicles, and then she's going to narrow it down to the best one. So if they've been considering certain vehicles, you may find out that they're considering a crossover, not a sports car or a truck. How many dogs do you have? Children? Goats? You laugh, I have 2 goats. So if Larry was to know this about me, he might know what type of vehicle. I might need to transport dogs in crates. It might be important to know if I have elderly parents or handicapped children. There's a lot of different things that Larry could have asked me to find out what vehicle I wanted. I don't want a loud muffler. I don't want a car that's really fast. I want one that's safe for transport. Are you the shopper in the household? So what we're saying to destroy the plaid jacket legacy is to make sure that we're asking good, insightful questions, not selling our features and our functions. Let marketing sell that on the brochure or the website. But once you really get to talk to your customer, let's not throw spaghetti at them. Ask some good questions. We don't want to make this kind of an inquisition, so lace it with some open-ended and some closed-ended questions so they don't think that they're being put on trial. But carefully ask some good questions and listen so that you can come to a solution. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Larry. He's going to make some phone calls. What he's trying to do is increase his sales. It's going to be a little awkward here, so hold on. This was hard for me to do.
Hi. Yes. Is John there? Okay. Thank you. John, did you get my bid? Yes. Yep. We sent it over yesterday. Right. Have you written the PO yet? Did you look at the bids? Okay. Right. So when do you think you guys will be writing the PO? Gotcha. So are we low bid? Because I know you're looking for.
Oops. Sorry there. I was going to write in chat.
Low bid. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Hi, Sam? Yes. I just wanted to tell you I've been looking at my sales numbers lately, and it's really odd. You just haven't been buying as much as you did last year. Right. Okay. Well, what I was hoping is that you could buy some more, right? At least what you bought last year. Maybe a little bit more. My boss has put on some extra numbers on me for this year. So I have to sell about 10% more. So I'm just calling all my customers. Could you buy some more? Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
All right. Could we write in our chat comments what Larry did wrong on those 2 phone calls? And I have to tell you that the second one, where we were confronted with a salesperson who asked why we were buying less this year than last year and asked that we buy more, really did happen. That is a true situation, happened in a networking opportunity at a conference where a salesperson came up and literally talked about the fact that we were low in what we were buying, as if it was our fault. So yeah, Larry, I have Mia said, made it all about him. That's for sure. He sure wasn't talking about the client, wasn't it? He was certainly pushy and awkward. You ever talk to those salespeople that are like, hey, buddy, old pal, oh, dude, bro. It's kind of the pushy old guy, wasn't he? Yeah, Todd, his needs, right? His sales numbers. His boss told him what to do. So he's talking about his quota. So does that sound familiar? I'm selling X today. Your numbers look low. Have you awarded the job? Checking on the PO. Really lame questions. Shooting from the hip. It screams desperation, right? I need a sale. Write me a check. I've got no skills. I've just been doing this for years and you've always written me a check. How come you're not doing it now? You've always bought from me. Why aren't you buying from me? So he's not talking about his clients at all. And I would say Larry didn't plan at all before he got on that telephone call, right? Because if Larry was thinking about it, he would have used a call plan. And again, this is a tool that you can get from Google. You can actually do a Google search and say sales call plan and get something specific for you. And I'm not saying that you've got to script this, so it doesn't have to be word for word. This is my call plan, Connell call plan, the company that I'm calling on, the dates that I'm calling on, the attendees. Then in the corner, it says DM. That's the decision makers. That may or may not be the people that I'm talking to. Most important, my favorite part of my call plan personally is the wish, the want, and the walk. When I'm calling on my client, I want something from them. I want them to move to the next part of the sales funnel. So I may want to know about their needs. I may want to talk about the solution. I may want them to start a pilot. I may want them to sponsor me to the decision makers. I may want them to try something on or do a test drive on the vehicle. There's something I want. And I need to make that really clear because the questions I ask down below should lead me to that want. By the time I get to into my sales call, whether I'm talking face-to-face to a customer that walked into my store, or whether I'm got 45 minutes with the executive buyer, I need to get to my want in those 45 minutes. But before I go and talk to them, I also want to think, what is the lowest thing that they can give me before we're going to break up forever and I'm just going to walk away from this sale? So I may want to do a credit check, but they may not want to give that to me. So what's something lower that I could get from them? Test drive the vehicle. Now, on the other hand, I want to wish. So sometimes I can ask my client by the end of the meeting or my potential customer, what would the next steps be according to you? And they may come up with something much better than what I wanted. They may offer my wish. I may know what my wish is and think, wow, I've developed a lot of pain and urgency. I've got the nerve to ask for it. So defining your wish, your want, and your walk before you go and see your customer is one of the most important things you can do on a sales call before you pick up that phone. And then I encourage you to use the open-ended questions that you would research or maybe steal some from the previous section to develop some pain and urgency. Really, because the pain is their needs, why they're going to buy your product. And the urgency is where you're trying to give them a solution. Tell them what you've got to offer so that they need to buy it today, right? Why is this so great? Maybe give them two choices, A or B. And then the benefits are the ROI, the return on investment that they're going to get from your product. So it could be envy. Really, Larry's right. Maybe you do want to be envied for the car that you buy, but we need to get there and find out. We need to inquire about what your needs are before we can come to the conclusion about you getting envied for your vehicle. So let's think about all of that and go through the benefits in asking for what we want in that closing, expecting some type of pushback. That's what my call plan actually has, a line where they're going to say no. And then we can negotiate how we might overcome that pushback or decide if we're going to walk away. I'm going to show you a couple other pieces from that. First of all, to destroy this plaid jacket legacy, what I would say is implement a call plan for every call. So you're never going on an awkward or uncomfortable call. Remember that we don't want to be shooting from the hip. We want to go in there with some intention for a wish, a want, or a walk, because we can't date forever, right? At some point you have to say, I'm not going to keep doing homework for you. I'm not going to keep calling back. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to either decide that this is a good solution for you or decide maybe I'll call you back in a year, right? So it could be just bringing up during that meeting under the pain is the last time we talked, you mentioned your supplier isn't delivering toilet paper in time, right? That's a really important item right now. So last time we talked, you mentioned your supplier isn't getting toilet paper here on time. So you have to go to Kroger and buy more expensive toilet paper. I understand that's costing you a lot more because now you have to pay retail prices instead of wholesale prices. So that's probably costing you an extra $20 a week. So maybe $80 a month. And we're developing this into some type of urgency, so we want to add up that pain for a year. We've done this before. We've brought in the toilet paper on time. We can save you all that money. So I would encourage you to put down, you don't have to script it, but put down questions that you're going to ask to walk them through that entire call plan so that you can plan your work and then work through that plan. Now, I would also recommend that you don't practice your call plan on your client. So find somebody you can practice with. We recommend the mirror to start out with. Record yourself like I did for Larry on your computer. Talk to a spouse or a friend or a coworker or a boss. Do a role play. That's what all the salespeople do. We practice role plays. So expect that that's something that you would have to do to make sure that your plan would go off without a hitch. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Larry again. And Larry is going to try to close a sale. So he's going to do a confrontation here. Again, I'm warning you, might be a little bit awkward. Make sure as you're watching this that you start thinking of what you might put in chat, because I'm going to ask you to put something in.
So you're ready to sign the PO? No? Okay, how about the pilot? Are you ready to do the pilot? Yeah. Well, my boss says I need to close you. So I was thinking probably it would be a good idea if maybe next week we do the pilot, right? Yes, next week. That sounds good. Oh, you don't want to do it? No, because you're not ready to buy. Okay, so when will you be ready to buy? You need more information from me. Okay, yep. Well, okay. Well, hopefully we can get it in this quarter, right? Hopefully, yep. And if I bring you that additional information, it's more likely that we can get it in this quarter. Okay. Well, that's what I really want. I would like to have it in this quarter. And and I'll bring you the research. Okay. Thank you.
So let's write into our chat now. What did Larry do wrong during his close? And as you look at this, I guess I would emphasize, what did Larry tell his boss? When he got back to the office after that visit with his customer, what did he tell his boss? And what did he put into his CRM system? Almost ready to close. Looks like they're going to put it in next quarter as soon as I bring them some more research, right? So imagine what he said to his sales manager or his boss. And think, what could Larry have done differently? I'm going to pause a minute and let you guys answer into the chat. What could have Larry done differently? Or even just pointing out what Larry did wrong. He's pressuring the client. He's still focused on his own agenda. He sure is. How about this? Will you sign the PO? Is that a good call plan, or can we start the pilot? Next order. Yeah, he's definitely focused on his own timeline. But, he started out with the PO and he went down to the pilot. Now he's saying, well, could we close next quarter or soon? He's all over the place, right? He's closing, he's backing down, he's failing. So he's certainly focused. He does seem really desperate. Thanks, Candace. He seems super desperate. But he missed his opportunity. No plan of action to implement. Thanks, April. He missed a really good opportunity here, right? When his client told him that they didn't want to sign the PO or they didn't want to start the pilot, he started kind of falling back. And then he okayed doing more homework. So does he really want to do more homework? No. So at the point the client asked him that he didn't want to sign the PO, no, he wasn't very confident. That's for sure. I see another comment in there, not confident. He failed to ask a really important question. So in sales, we kind of do have to confront our customer, right? In a way, we have to say, hey, are we going to keep dating forever, or are we going to get married? So he really does need to ask them to marry him. He really does need to say, are you going to sign the PO, move forward with the sale? But when they said no, he didn't ask a really important question. And that really important question will make it so that we have hundreds of people that go into our funnels and a few that fall out. He's got to ask a really hard question to determine who goes and who stays. If he was thinking about it and realizing not everybody can stay and go through the bottom of that funnel, he would have asked one key question. Oh, Todd's got it. He was afraid to consider the reason to walk away, right? The cost of walking away is really important. Great answer, Todd. He could have asked one important question. And from this, he could have decided if he needed to walk away. Now, it's going to be hard for Larry to walk away because I'm guessing his funnel wasn't very full. When you have a lot of people in your funnel, you don't mind walking away. You don't mind using your valuable resource of you on other customers. So he needs to ask a couple of important questions. If he would have paused and said, let's say in this example, his want was that the client would start a pilot program to determine whether or not they should buy the product. He could have asked, what's preventing you from starting this pilot? And that client would have made up a couple of reasons, right? We don't have it in the budget right now. That's a good one. We don't have it in the budget right now. Really, is there anything else? And if he listens that client's going to tell him 2 or 3 other reasons, right? And when he gets down to maybe the second or third or fourth reason, he might get to the root cause of why that customer isn't ready to buy. We don't understand your solution, right? We heard bad things about you on the street. There could be a lot of reasons, but he needs to know them. And what he doesn't want to find out is one reason at a time. If you find out one reason at a time, you're going to solve that reason and come back, and they're still not going to start the pilot. So if we want to shorten our sales cycle, we want to be ready for the pushback. And we want to make sure that we get it all and then resolve the most important disconnect. This is just a misunderstanding, right? So let's start out with the most important one. Capture them all and then start resolving the most important one. So you can't tell your customer they're wrong. If they heard rumors about you on the street, then you've got to agree with them. They need affirmation. Those are their real feelings. That's their real world. So affirm it. Yep, you're right. I've heard that before. You don't have to say you're right, our product sucks, but you do have to say, you're right. We did have some problems with it 10 years ago when we first brought it to market. You can ask for a personal experience, because if they used your product, let them get it out. Let them tell you what happened. Maybe it wasn't a personal experience. Let's get to the bottom of that. So if they don't have a personal experience, maybe it's just perception. They heard about gossip out on the street. We can offer a customer story right now, some testimonial, some facts, changes in the product, maybe a white paper, something like that. But don't offer that too soon, right? You could say, I have a customer who thought the same thing about our product. He worked with us when it was crappy 10 years ago, and he stuck with us through the thick and thin. Now he has wonderful things to say about our product. We could do a test, right? Hence the pilot or something like that. We could just try to find some clients. At one point, I worked in genetic testing, and they said, well, it wasn't covered by insurance. So we said, well, let's find 4 or 5 people and see if their insurance covers it. That's a real test. But I would be careful to negotiate what you need first. If you bring them the white paper, if you set up a telephone conversation with an existing client, if you bring them some type of proof, you want to negotiate that they will move forward when you're done. Because you need to know that ahead of time so your sales cycle doesn't go on forever and ever. We don't want to get another lame answer next time. We want real insights. We want to know that if we can overcome this pushback, that they will move forward with our product. At this point, it's really important to ask very slowly, to listen, use that 80-20 rule, and reply with concern. This is the most important part of being a salesman, listening to your customer. You don't want to be marketing. Marketing doesn't have that opportunity. They have to send out to the masses. They have to hope that the connection with the client will come through in general terms. But now we're talking specifically to our client. So we really need to know what their real problem is, and we can't be scared to get it. So here's some starters. Ask your customer what their biggest concern is. Maybe repeat their pushback. In agreement, don't deny it. Your product's not perfect. Elaborate what specific. You can add a drop of doubt in here. Could it be that salesman ABC is saying this about us because he's worried you're going to switch products? Could it be that somebody learned about this from a product 10 years ago and it's not relevant information? Could it be that the research has changed? We have ways to add a drop of doubt in there. And then your proof, your time to shine. I have a customer. I can tell you that this is a great way to talk to future customers. and hook them up so that you can have one person talk to another person. And then if I brought you proof, would you agree to? So remember, Larry is not who we want to be. We don't want to be Larry. So be ready for that pushback. Be ready to address it. It's an awesome piece of information that you need to know. So I'm going to kind of start summarizing here so we can have some time for questions and answers. We talked about the sales myth. It's not all about your product. That's the part where we tend to want to talk about how great our baby is and throw spaghetti at the wall and start acting like marketing. But in sales, it's not much about our product. It's about our customers' needs and solutions that we can offer that specific customer. We want to make sure that it is unique to the customer, so we're great listeners. Second of all, don't do those crazy telephone calls where you're telling your customers that they owe you sales. Work on your call plan before you get on the phone. No shooting from the hip, no awkward, uncomfortable situations. Practice those call plans with anybody that will listen to you. I suggest a 17, 18, or 19-year-old teenager. Try to walk them through your call plan. Remember WWW, wish, want, and walk. And also that WIIFM, what's in it for me? And let go of those goofy confrontations. We do need to be confrontational in sales. We have to ask for the sale. So we've got to be confident. We've got to build up our guts to ask for that sale. But one of the ways to be ready to ask is know that there might be some pushback, and that's okay. That gives us the opportunity so that we can make sure that we understand our customer. And when we understand our customer, that's when we connect with them in a way that they can purchase from us. Remember, everybody buys from somebody that's like them, and those are those connections. So that kind of concludes the basic information I have. And I'm going to be like the TV salesperson now. But wait, there's more. Here's the bonus. Here's an activity tracker. It wasn't part of my agenda, but I'm going to tell you, Google sales activity tracker. If you're in sales, this reminds you of what you should be doing all week. Cold calling, follow up, drop in on cold calls, having meetings, doing presentations, referrals, trade shows, seminars. You need to do it all. So don't let a week go by where you're not doing cold calling. You can't say, I've been working on that presentation all week, so I haven't done any cold calls. So please Google sales activity tracker and come up with one for you. I know as an owner of a small business, it's hard to wear all those hats, but if you don't wear the hat where you're the salesperson, it's going to end in not enough sales. So, hey, make this the first thing that you do in the morning. Don't wait until the end of the afternoon when everybody's walking out the door. But wait, there's more. Here's a couple of recommended reads, and you can take a look at these. There's all kinds of sales books out there. Selling for Dummies is actually really simple and easy to read and has all kinds of good sales tips for a variety of different businesses. I love the Solution Selling Field book. That is probably my favorite right now. I have not read You Can't Read a Kid to Can't Teach a Kid to Read a Bike at a Seminar. It comes from a respected salesperson contact of mine. And boy, even just looking at that title, right? You got to get your feet on the street and practice and then get out there. So that makes total sense to me. So I would say, yep, it starts out to be a struggle, and we've got a solution here for you. Use your sales tool. Plan for your sales calls. Don't hope that what you say is going to work, right? Don't be a Larry. Don't be somebody that's going to tell his boss that it's going to close when it's not really going to close. He's kind of insulting. You don't want him to tell you what type of vehicle you want. You want to go in there and have a real consultative conversation where he's going to listen to you. That concludes my presentation. If anybody would like to ask some questions or share some experiences, we can open up chat to do that for the next 10 or 12 minutes here. I look forward to hearing about the products people are selling too. I think it's very interesting when people tell me what they're trying to sell. There's a lot of products out there to sell. Thanks for your comments, Amanda and Jill. I appreciate it. I hope that this was a broad presentation that you guys can kind of narrow down. Do some Google searches on those open-ended questions. That's what's really going to help. Thanks, April. I appreciate your comments. Okay, we've got a question out there from Todd. How do you work with your sales team so they establish with you a sales cycle? And so I'm assuming, Todd, you would be the sales manager of a sales team, and you're trying to define the sales cycle with product in your industry. Does that sound about right? I'm going to go with that and say that I've interpreted that correctly. Teaching, yeah. Yes, teaching new entrepreneurs. Let me start with a story there. So one of the most interesting things that I had to sell in my sales lifetime was my husband's band. So my husband joined a band with 5 other people, so it was a relatively big band. They played 80s covers, and they played to bars. And one of the things that I had to do was create the website and create a Facebook. So I'm working with marketing as a marketing person. And then I had to go out to the bars and sell the band. So that was actually create a booking where they delivered the service of a night of entertainment. So when we went to the bars, right, the first thing that I did was I had to go to the bar. This is my bar sales cycle, sell the band sales cycle. I go to the bar and I ask who the decision maker is. I did have a beer. So sit down, talk to the bartender, have a beer. Figure out, do they book bands there? How often, what days? Who makes the decisions on booking the bands? And she or he would tell me what days they had bands, what types of bands they'd had there in the past. We just had a conversation, right? What kind of customers they had and whether or not they had a lot of dancers. That was very important. And when I figured out who the decision maker is, I asked which day that person would be there, typically a manager. Then I brought my husband, the lead singer, and a press kit. And then we went back there on the day that the decision maker was available. And we sat down and had a conversation with the decision maker, leaving him with the information that we had to book the band, and hopefully booking the band right there. But at a very minimal, my husband would go back in there if we couldn't book the band immediately because he had to talk to the band about what days they were available. He would go back into the bar and find the decision maker and offer up the days and times that the band was available. So every single thing that you pitch has a sales cycle, but it takes some practice to figure out what it is. What I would suggest you do if you have a sales team is get in a conference room and whiteboard it. If you don't have a sales team, you have certain experiences that you can start seeing a pattern. Once you have that pattern, you want to make it as detailed as possible, because you hope that sometimes you can skip some of those steps. Other times you can't skip those steps. So you're going to want to record or make sure that you whiteboard the biggest possible sales cycle, knowing that sometimes you're going to be able to skip those steps. But the sales cycles are usually kind of similar, right? Meet with the customer, find the needs. Then maybe meet with the customer again and figure out what the solutions are. Talk about how they're going to implement it and move forward that way. So I hope that that answers Todd's question in detail, that sales cycle takes a while to figure out. It's available for every single industry. Different salespeople can get through it at different rates. So you can make sure that everybody has similar sales cycles, but they're going to go through it differently. Other questions out there on the materials, or if anybody wants to share an experience, I think that's really interesting too. I think things are a little bit different now that we have the pandemic, and sometimes entering other people's buildings as a visitor isn't allowed. So it would be good if somebody could share some experiences that they've had with sales recently due to the pandemic. Okay, we've got a question from Helen. Can you suggest tips on how to find a prospect's current challenges or problems to avoid the 2020 question instead, to be valuable on the first call? Yes, and it's going to be easier in some industries than others, right? So if you know your industry well, you can guess what some of the challenges might be. So one of the ways to figure out challenges is to go to some of the industry conferences, because that's where they're going to be talking about the challenges of the industry. Another way is to do some research online. There's a lot of information nowadays on Google, right? It could be reading the paper and recognizing, wow, okay, so we have a pandemic right now, so more retail stores are going to need to sell online. So how do they convert some of their customers online that used to walk over the thresholds? So current events can help. If you can get some investor relations, if it's a publicly held company, you can look into certain roles. Like, for example, there are certain marketing problems that kind of span the industry, and then you can get more specific by going and listening to maybe some industry conferences, or doing some research specifically on the client they're going to visit or the person that you're going to visit. I think it's really important that you do all the research you can do in advance. Honestly, it's, for me, when somebody tries to sell to me and they haven't done that research, it's a little insulting to know that they didn't bother to look me up on LinkedIn. So I would suggest do anything you can for Google research, and then from there branch out to where you can. And Helen, if you could ask some open-ended questions and some closed-ended questions, it won't feel like like they're on trial or an inquisition. So kind of lace some open-ended and some closed-ended to make it feel a little bit more like a conversation. I hope that helps. Other questions are welcome. We've got about 6 more minutes. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate your comments on the presentation. You know, I have to tell you that sales is a job, a defined role all by itself that takes, years and years of experience. So do what you can to help advance your role in sales by reading everything that you can. Start with the Sales for Dummies if you're at the very beginning phases of it, and think about the sales interactions that you've had. Which ones have felt good and which ones were awkward and horrible? And recognize, give yourself some grace. It's going to be hard to start out, hard to ask these questions. You know your product's great. You believe in the company you work for. But with a lot of practice and some role playing and in talking to a lot of people, you're going to get more and more comfortable and more confident with the questions that you ask. And when they're good questions that you really want to connect with your client, it'll be a lot easier, I think, to ask them because you're being genuinely yourself. I did have a sales manager once who made me focus too much on questions, and I didn't get to really know the person I was talking to. So the focus on questions really distracted me. I needed to comment on something in their office or about them to just make a human connection before I asked the sales questions. So I would recommend, if that makes you more comfortable and more connected with the person, ask them that first. Talking about the weather is okay. Start there. Nobody wants to play 20 questions immediately. Maurice asks, what role can sales play in product development? That's a really, really thoughtful question because a lot of times sales doesn't have any opportunity. Sales get called in last moment and they say, here's the product that you've got. One way sales can help with product development is gathering the things that the clients don't like about the product. Think of a customer that is using your product right now and is on the cusp of not using it anymore. If your salesperson finds that out, they might be able to tell you, and maybe that's a really important client, and maybe that's something you want to move up in your product development. It may have already been on your list. It might have been number 7 or 8. But if you're going to lose a big client about it and your salesperson tells you you're going to lose that big client, maybe that's it. I would be cautious about how much your salesperson adds because, quite honestly, it could send you in a circle, right? Because you're not trying to make your product be all things to all people. So don't get in a spin where you're fixing every little thing about the product. Maybe your competition should be good in that area. So your SWOT analysis may tell you where your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats lie. And consider what your salesperson brings back, and does that play into your SWOT analysis so you're not all over chasing your tail about new things to improve. Your salesperson should be confident in selling your product based on its strengths. So there might be something that they hear from the market that is a basic entry that maybe you're lacking. You're lacking on a certain item that all people in that market have, and it's becoming more of a commodity that they have that basic item. If your salesperson is doing competitive analysis and everybody has it but you, and it is something that everybody's had for years, I would compare that to the SWOT and see where that needs to be in the product development. So I think there's a lot of areas that sales can play in product development, but I would still be careful. A lot of times the salesperson's going to complain and want to fix every single item, and then that makes it a product development problem, not a sales problem. So we got to get out there and sell, even if our product isn't perfect. So no finger pointing. Sales needs to get done what sales needs to get done. Can't keep going back to marketing and say make a smoother, better, glossy, or keep going back to product development and saying make a better product. I've got a question here from Candace. She started a catering company and she's not great at cold calling. She likes the face-to-face better. And I think the face-to-face is awesome. And I can tell you, Candace, when I worked for genetic testing for the company that did the genetic testing, we developed a territory plan. And what I did was I called on certain customers each day of the week. So on Tuesdays, I would go to Flint. On Wednesdays, I would go to Toledo. On Thursdays, Saginaw. Each day of the week, I would find out who I would talk to face-to-face. I would knock on those doors. I would talk to the receptionist, just like going to the bar and talking to the bartender. Make yourself a territory plan. Tell yourself you're going to get through 5 or 6 of them every day, and they'll become easier and easier. There might be somebody that's trying to block you from talking to the decision maker. That would be the receptionist when I was in genetic testing, or maybe the bartender when I was selling the band. So remember that you need to make sure that you talk to those people and find out who the real decision maker is. It can become very comfortable to talk to the bartender or the receptionist, but they're not the one that's going to purchase from you. So make sure you ask them who the decision maker is on the catering decisions, on testing patients, so that you get to the right person. Probably have time for one more quick question if anybody has one more quick question. I'm going to show the bonus tracker again. Like I said, I really hope that you look for that activity tracker. That's your bonus, but wait, there's more. You can Google that and you fill that out how you think you need to fill it out. But make sure you're doing all things in sales: cold calling, meeting, trade shows, presentations. You got to keep doing it all. Where's a good place for sales leads? In the event planning industry. Ooh, Benita, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't personally had a lot of event planning. Maybe somebody else on the Zoom web chat could answer where a good place for sales leads. I know the wedding industry is really high. I may be connecting with an event planner. If you could cold call on some event planners, because event planners probably need food. I know we're doing a big event at our home, 300 people for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm working with a planner that works, an event planner that's on staff at Big Brothers Big Sisters. So these event planners normally need food. Working direct with clients, I'm not too sure how we would get that information. Photographers. How about the people that rent the tables and the chairs? I don't know if they would be. You want to get with these people early in the sales cycle. So whoever the first, maybe if they book the location first, the event site, maybe it's getting with the event site, some good connection there. Don't forget your recommended reads, Sales for Dummies, my favorite, the Solution Selling Field Book, Become a Professional. Nice answer for those that own the halls. That's a good one. Thanks, guys. That's all I've got for now. You can look for this information out at the YouTube site. All the presenters' information is going to be out there, this one included.